Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Dustin Matthews here with day 19 in the 30 Habits in 30 Days video series. Today's habit that we're going to be talking about deserves a little trigger warning up front. So, the topic for this habit might be uncomfortable for some people, it might be awkward for some people, it might bring up feelings of shame or guilt or, different emotions that aren't necessarily easy to feel. But I want to give it its own space as a habit because I feel like it's so prevalent in today's society with technology and how the media in society today can be engineering our biology to control us into certain impulsive, compulsive behaviors. So, the topic for today is sexual self regulation. And what that means, the habit that we'll be partaking in, is avoiding pornography and compulsive sexual behavior. So, this isn't to create any sense of guilt or shame or moral superiority. This is a practice that I have experienced that has increased my own conscious awareness and my ability to regulate my own emotions and habits. Like many people out there probably do, I have experienced, you know, engaging in these types of things, and I have practiced disengaging from these types of things. I have had to deal with my own feelings of guilt and shame and the feelings of trying to regulate my behavior and asking myself some hard questions like, why do I continue to do this even though I feel guilty after? Or when I'm able to make it long periods of time without using pornography or engaging in compulsive sexual behavior, I start to feel really good and really confident. And then when I have a relapse, so to speak, I can tend to beat myself up. So the whole reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like I never had these discussions as a young man with anyone. I learned all on my own by trial and error. No one really ever taught me about sexual health. There's a lot of judgment and feelings of shame and guilt that come from, sexuality. And I'm not trying to create repression in terms of our sexuality with this. I'm just trying to increase awareness so that we can have more conscious choice about how we choose to self regulate. What I've discovered is that porn and a lot of social media exposes our biology to stimulus and novelty, creating an urge for sexual desire and pleasure. And what happens with our brains when we engage with that behavior, whether it's pornography or feeling the urge to always act on your sexual impulses, what we're doing is we're actually strengthening the wiring in our brain between the stimulus, which is the urge or the pornography, and then the response, which is we act on it, we engage in that behavior, we either masturbate, have sex, whatever it might be, and then our brain is flooded with dopamine. That's the reward we get. So this is actually a loop of instant gratification. We have an urge or an impulse, we engage in a behavior, we get a reward. Okay? That's what habits are. And what I've come to discover is that the more distance you can put in between the urge and the action. So let's say you have a sexual thought or you're on Instagram and you see an Instagram model in a bikini and she's got the link to her OnlyFans. What are you going to do? Are you going to continue to expose yourself to that stimulus and tempt yourself to engage in the action that you know will give your brain that release of dopamine? Because on a biological and neurological level, what is happening is we are biological sexual beings. That's how we reproduce. And when our attention, our focus, our eyes, men are very highly visual in terms of being stimulated sexually. So when we see these things out there, uh, we are tempted to engage in sexual behaviors. And it's important for I was going to say it's important for us, as in I'm talking about men, but I don't know. Are women the same way with their visual stimulus, or is it more emotional? Obviously, how we are attracted to different people is different for everybody. But what I'm touching on, what I'm talking about is how our visual stimulation, all right? I'm speaking from personal experience. When you are attracted to beauty, there's a sense that this beauty stimulates a response that you want to engage in a certain behavior. And what I'm trying to help people understand is that porn and social media, like explicit forms of social media, the Instagram models and all that, can trigger us to engage in behaviors that just create this loop of instant gratification, which will then reinforce our habits and our patterns to have an urge or see a stimulus and then act on it. And what I found is that we can actually strengthen our prefrontal cortex. We can strengthen our own brain, our decision making center, by putting more space between the urge and the action. Okay. What I would suggest and what I've practiced is different things like meditation, cold showers, affirmations, breath work is one of the best ones that I've found too, because it brings the stimulation down. Obviously, putting away the device or the stimulus is beneficial. Okay. But then you have to regulate your nervous system. You have to go from that excited state of sexual, urge. And then you have to say, okay, I'm trying to be more conscious of these behaviors. I'm trying to be more conscious about not looking at pornography. I'm trying to be more conscious about not acting on every urge as soon as I have it. So I'm going to try to put some space between the urge and the action. And usually what happens is after 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, that urge actually dissipates. It goes away. It's like a wave. It gets really hard and high, and then hard and high. Oh boy. It's a wave. It peaks and it falls. So what I found is the 4-6 breathing technique, meditation, going for a walk, removing the stimulus, changing your environment, all these little things can help put some distance between the urge and the action. And that can make it easier to basically find something to do as that urge settles. All right. And then we can come back with more self-awareness, more self-trust. We can survive and regulate our own nervous system. And we can say, okay, I did well there. I'm able to reflect on my own behaviors from a place of non-judgment and just simple awareness and conscious choice. I don't have to beat myself up if I do engage in those behaviors. I don't have to punish myself with guilt or shame. I can look at my emotions and learn from them. If you feel guilty after you look at porn and masturbate, maybe that's trying to tell you this is a behavior that you want to change. And it's not to beat yourself up and make yourself feel bad. It's because your emotions are trying to tell you something. So what I've learned is that if there are slip ups, then you just get back on the horse. If you fall off the horse, get back on the horse and learn from it. Okay, what happened there? What did I do that led me to engage in that behavior? What could I do next time to help me not engage in that behavior? Okay, so this is all about increasing our own ability to become self-aware, to be conscious of our impulses and our urges, and then developing more self-control in whether we act on them or not. And what I've found is when you're able to strengthen your own executive functioning of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, that decision maker, okay, you feel an urge of self-trust, which is the foundation of self-confidence. Confide is the root word of confidence, and it means to trust in. To confide in someone means to trust in someone. So self-confidence comes from self-trust. And the way that we develop self-trust is by committing to goals that are achievable and then trying, putting in the effort and learning. And when we're able to learn and engage with what we're learning, and every time we can put more distance between an urge and that action, We put something in like breath work, meditation, going for a walk, push-ups, writing, journaling. Just put something else in there, reading, learning, talking to somebody. Okay, so instead of just acting on our urges as soon as they come up, take a pause, breathe, recognize, hey, this is an urge that's coming up. This is something I'm trying to become more conscious of. Do I want to engage in this urge right now? Do I want to put my attention and my focus on gratifying this urge right now? Or do I want to try to implement a new habit, a new behavior, a new way of being so that I can feel better about myself? I can develop more self-trust. What I found is being free from pornography and compulsive sexual behaviors increases your own level of motivation, self-trust, and self-confidence. It allows you to focus your attention for longer periods of time because you're not distracted by the instant gratification. You're able to commit to your long-term goals and have more discipline and motivation and focus in taking the steps necessary to achieve long-term goals instead of just getting that dopamine fix of urge, action, pleasure, that response that you get from just gratifying your impulses right away. And I think one of the best things that I've been able to do I've been practicing this for years, okay? And this is something I wish I had known at a much younger age, but there is such a negative stigma and there's a lot of guilt and shame around this topic with certain people. It's not talked about often enough. And I just wanted to open this conversation up so that more people could learn from my experience and what I've learned about this after experiencing it for decades. I'm 35 years old, so I've been engaging with sexual impulses for over 20 years, and learning from them and having different, practices that I've been able to implement over the course of my life. And all of the habits we've been developing so far will build that foundation to make dealing with urges and impulses easier. Okay. So getting enough sleep, doing the breath work, the meditation, the journaling, exercise, eating healthy foods, limiting the caffeine, all of these things will help us regulate our nervous system, become more conscious. And that right there is enough to help us develop more self-control, which will help us develop more self-trust, more self-confidence, and more motivation to go out and pursue things in our lives, our real lives, not the instant gratification that we get from technology and screens and media and pornography and video games and movies. But we can actually set goals for ourselves in reality, in the real world, and we can pursue them with more self-trust and self-discipline, more courage, more grace. We'll have more to offer the world. And it compounds over time. You get better and better, one day at a time. This has been a pretty long talk for this topic because I feel like this is one of the most charged topics that I've felt passionate about in the course of my life, especially over the last 5 years or so. And I think it's important to mention most of what I'm talking about in terms of sexual self-regulation is how we deal with our behaviors with pornography, our relationship with that, our relationship with self-soothing and masturbation, and relationships. And I feel like it's important that I mention healthy, consensual sexual relationships. They're a part of life. They can be healthy. They can be unhealthy. All I'm trying to do with this habit is develop more conscious awareness so that we can engage in our relationship with sexuality in a more conscious and whole, complete way that's going to be more sustainable and fulfilling and harmonious and enjoyable. So I hope you're here enjoying in this discussion, and feel free to comment and subscribe and like and share this with anybody who might be struggling with some of these behaviors. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I wish you all the best. And this is coming from a place of no judgment. Uh, I've had to learn to deal with different emotions on my own, the guilt, the shame, all those things. And I'm much more comfortable today talking about sexuality and my own experiences with things that might be awkward or embarrassing or uncomfortable, because I know that there are people out there that are still suffering from these types of behaviors. And I just want to make people feel like there is someone they can talk to about it, and there is someone out there that understands it, and you're not alone. And if anybody is interested in having any one-on-one coaching, I'm offering some spots for one-on-one coaching. So feel free, if you're interested in that, you can sign up for a call, and we'll just do a 15-minute free, curiosity call, so you can figure out if I'm someone that you want to work with on helping regulate your nervous system, figure out what your identity is, what your meaning is, what your purpose is in the world, how you can maybe heal from some of your emotions and find ways to create a healthier way of being in terms of thinking, feeling, and doing. And that all starts with regulating your nervous system and developing some healthy habits. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you. God bless. Good luck. And I'll see you on the next one.